Everybody's looking at the Houston Texans wide receivers, seeing which one's going to step up if Nico Collins can't go this week. Jaylin Noel's getting a lot of buzz on social media. A lot of people talking him up as the next man in this offense that could potentially blow up. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly in this deep dive on Jaylen Null, so you know whether or not you want to pick him up. I might talk you out of him. I might talk you into putting him in your lineup this week. It's really on your situation. But before we dig in, though, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're doing deep dives like this every single day on as many players as possible, all the trending players, so you know a little bit more about them, the good, the bad, and the ugly on that player. Click that button. Stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching. You do not want to disappoint Ric Flair. But Nico Collins might be out this week. Banged up with a concussion. He's in concussion protocol. He might be out there. He might not. He's in doubtful status right now, per what we're seeing here in the news. So that is something to monitor, because he could come back and wreck all of this. But looking like, reading the tea leaves here, that he might be out. And Jaylen Null steps in. He's a hot player. 7 targets in week 7, 4 balls caught, 77 yards. Getting a lot of buzz, and there is some good things in his prospect profile. There's some good things to be excited about, and you're looking here what AI is saying off Twitter, which is Grok. They're considering him as a sleeper who is gaining some traction. On top of that, a lot of people are talking him up on Twitter. He is not trending on sleeper. Your average fantasy football consumer is not looking at Jaylen Null, but a lot of deeper players, dynasty deep leaguers, are looking at Jaylen Null right now. So this is something to pay attention to. He was a 3-star prospect coming out of high school. Not a lot of offers per 24/7 Sports, but K-State, Iowa, Iowa State. But we get to Iowa State. It takes some years, but we fire really in 2023 with 7 touchdowns, 820 yards. And last year we put the stamp on things. 80 balls caught, 1,100 yards, and 8 touchdowns. 2.62 yards per route ran, 12.2 ADOT. That's very good for a wide receiver pushing it downfield, and also for a wide receiver that can play on the inside and outside. On top of that, when you go back and watch his tape, or if you go back and watch his teammate's tape, who was his teammate at Iowa State, Jaden Higgins, you watch Jaden Higgins, Null pops off. Null is a player that's electric, that can create separation, who finds the way to be open on almost every single route ran. Back at Iowa State, turned heads at the Senior Bowl as well. You're looking at a wide receiver here with 4.3 speed, decent size. He's got the build, he's got the frame for the slot. You're looking at his production here. Later breakout age than what we want at 21 years old. That's a prerequisite for wide receivers who can go off at the NFL level. But honestly, we just need him to go off a little bit here in these next few weeks. We need him to click with CJ Stroud. Target share-wise, 78th percentile back at Iowa State. Dominator rating, 63rd percentile. That's yards and touchdowns and the ownership of that per what was going on at Iowa State. But everything's checking out. The burst score, 90-some percentile. 40-yard dash, 94th percentile. Speed score, 73rd percentile, with him being 194 pounds. So we're electric. We're smooth. We go into 3rd round after drafting a wide receiver in the 2nd round, where this team actually needs to slam offensive line, but they can't pass up on Jaylen Null. Like I said, he killed it at the Senior Bowl. One of the most impressive wide receivers at the Senior Bowl. Putting guys on skates at practice, looking good, showing that versatility, and we got a lot of wide receivers here. Braxton Berrios, gatekeeper for the slot after Christian Kirk, passed him up. We're looking at what's here on the offense. You got a lot of names. You got a lot of guys to look at. Nico Collins is our king, though. He's the guy that brings in the deep ball downfield. He's been solid for multiple years. He is the man in the offense that gets the targets, that gets the opportunities, but he's banged up right now. So now we got to see who's the next man up. Christian Kirk, also banged up right now, but could also wreck the party. If that hamstring's okay, he could wreck this party of a rookie breaking out if he's out there on the field. He's done nothing for the Texans so far. He scored 10.4 PPR fantasy points in week 5. He missed the first 2 games. He missed some more games. He's done nothing for the Texans so far. Jaden Higgins was drafted ahead of Null. They played on the same team. He's equipped to play on the outside, 6'4", 214. Good fluid movement for his size. Good size adjusted athleticism. Definitely see him carving out a role somewhere down the line in his career, but he hasn't been firing. He's been getting an opportunity, but hasn't been able to take advantage of that. With Nico Collins out, Xavier Hutchinson stepping up as well, but also Higgins stepping up. So those are two wide receivers you're also looking at. Like, this wide receiver depth chart could get rather messy. So I'm talking you in, I'm talking you out of them as well. This wide receiver depth chart could get rather messy and could get risky quick and in a hurry depending on the matchup here. Hutchinson has been on the team for a little bit. He's been used intermittently throughout his career with the Texans. It's been the Nico Collins show when Collins has been out, especially last year. Hutchinson really didn't fire. He got some opportunities, he got some work, but never really fired and took advantage of that opportunity. You're looking at last week, the routes ran. Noel was 5th, tied with Braxton Berrios in routes ran, but he got the targets. 7 targets, 4 balls caught, 77 yards, 19.3 yards per reception. You're looking at ADOT 18.1, so he's getting balls deep downfield. You can put him in the slot and stretch it. That's the thing about him. You kind of got that Tank Dell effect with him. Supreme route runner that kills it downfield. That's what you're getting here with Jaylin Noel, and Stroud might love that. He might love that. Xavier Hutchinson led the team in routes ran, but just 4 targets. You're looking at Jaden Higgins, 3 targets in the matchup, 33 routes ran. Now, he could be the guy that emerges. He could be the guy that flips it on its head. That's the thing about this. This is a tricky depth chart, but Jaylen Null fits a role here on this team if Kirk is out, and if Kirk's going to be out for a bit, because he can separate. He is a solid wide receiver. He's very nuanced. He's very technical. He's a totally different role than Higgins. Higgins on the outside there, pushing it downfield. Like, he could emerge as well. That's something to pay attention to. So when you're looking at this wide receiver depth chart and what they did last week, Nico Collins, 10 targets, Jaylin Noel, 7, Higgins, 4, Braxton Berrios, 3, Hutchinson, 3. It could get mashed up. Like, Higgins could out-target Noel. But Noel right now is the hot hand. Noel, you can definitely see, no matter what, being out there creating separation unless Christian Kirk comes back. Odds are against it, but I can be wrong on that as well. You're also looking at the advanced metrics from these wide receivers on the season, and Jaden Higgins has ran 103 routes versus Jaylin Noel's 79 routes, but he hasn't been able to do much with it. Route participation rate, 48% for Higgins versus 37% for Noel, but he's starting to get warmed up out there. That's the thing about that. Noel's starting to get warmed up out there. You're also looking at target share, neither of them deep on that, but Noel fired last week. Higgins really didn't. Xavier Hutchinson has always been out there running routes at a good clip for this team, but hasn't really fired either. Christian Kirk's been bagged up. Braxton Berrios is a veteran slot wide receiver that doesn't really have much upside outside of touchdowns. You're looking at CJ Stroud. I mentioned Tank Dell earlier. CJ Stroud's best numbers was with Tank Dell out there. And that Tank Dell effect of playing the slot but winning deeper downfield helped CJ Stroud look really good earlier in his career. You can definitely see this in the fantasy numbers here. 259 passing yards per game versus 204. That's a split of 25 games versus 13. So the sample is actually pretty vast there. Like, there's something there. Like, CJ Stroud might connect with Jaylin Noel. So what are you thinking about this right now? Because right now it looks like murky waters. Looks like there's some risk. But also you're seeing a small sample of clues here on Jaylin Noel to where he could fire right out there on the field. You're looking at these matchups coming up. You got the Niners, 41.5 over under. They're around league average on the season when it comes to allowing fantasy points to wide receivers. They broke the Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith-Njigba like everybody else, but everybody else they went up against got to the fairway or less. That's something to look at there. Denver has been road dogging wide receivers. Nobody broke them for more than 20 PPR fantasy points. Keenan Allen, Devonta Smith came close, but they're also shutting down offenses as well. That's something to pay attention to, but it's Tennessee, it's the Jets, Bengals with bad quarterback play. So context comes in there, but the Colts, Josh Downs, leading wide receiver with just 11 PPR fantasy points. We know what the Colts have been doing. The Broncos getting weird-ass game scripts. That could make things weird for these wide receivers. But also, Nico Collins could be back by then, soaking up the targets. So that could just make things harder for Jaylen Null, Higgins, or whoever you're looking to pick up from this offense. The Jaguars, things are a little bit more open. But that's further down the road. And what if Kirk's back? Collins is out there. Now the waters are really murky. Now you're looking at him. He's an upside wide receiver here. We got a small sample of him flashing on the field. His prospect profile is very good. What we saw on tape at Iowa State at the Senior Bowl, very good. Very good in the slot. He can also stretch it deep from the slot. You can definitely see him becoming a weapon in this offense. You can definitely see where the upside is at. However, there's a lot of competition in this offense. So really, I have him more as stash status right now to see if he just blows up. Like, I would stash him to see if he blows up, but I would not jeopardize, like, my lottery ticket running backs. I wouldn't jeopardize any of those premium lottery tickets that I already have. But if I don't have one at wide receiver, which is rare right now, it's him, Luther Burden, a couple others, and you're looking for a stash wide receiver, here you go. If you're dire at wide receiver to the point where you're like, I don't care, this could be a wide receiver to look at. You have a bunch of others too, but this could be one that you can throw in and get lucky with, and maybe he catches fire for the rest of the season. A lot of the other waiver wire wide receivers we've looked at, they're going to be volatile game to game, but his ambiguous nature could lend to the notion of him catching fire for the back end of the season. That's one thing to pay attention to. You also got a game script, 41.5 over under, a defense that can hold wide receivers in check, game scripts that they've been in that held wide receivers in check. That is something to note here. And also, it could be a Higgins game. It could be a Hutchinson game. The volume could be off. But on top of that, he is a lottery ticket. He's a stash play. If you got room, sure. I wouldn't jeopardize the value of my bench, though, if I'm sitting pretty. But if I'm looking for a stash play, or if I'm in dire need at wide receiver, then this is the play for you. Rankings-wise, where I'm looking around fantasy football is like that wide receiver 40, 30-ish range right now. Sometimes in the 50s if it hasn't been adjusted yet for the week for Nico Collins and potentially Kirk being out. That's something to look at. So he's like a gamble flex, which there's a lot of them out there to look at. So if you already got one, maybe you don't make that move. That's something to think about. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about that. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One, thanks for watching. Catch you on the next video.